Greetings, beloved. Thank you for joining us today. Have you ever wondered why so many women are not equipped for marriage? It's because being a woman does not make you a bride, no more than being a woman makes you a mother. As with so many things in life, there's a process that leads us to our desired end. If your desired end is to be a bride according to biblical standards, then you have tuned in at the perfect time. Chapter 2 of the book of Titus tells us that the aged women should take the younger women through the process of becoming not just brides for a day, but brides for a lifetime. So stay tuned for more of Bridesmaid with me, your host, Renee Bolden.
Greetings to everyone. Always good to be here. It's a chilly morning, but I think about weather like this, and it always makes you appreciate the opposite. And saying that, I guess each season has its own glory. You know, I think I was talking to it was a married couple in law school some years ago, and they had come into the office. I think they had their little 7-month-old baby with them. They were just they were there, and they were just kind of talking about how challenging it was for the two of them to be going through law school and having a new baby, being away from their family and everything they knew. And I was encouraging them, and I was telling them, I said, I know it may be difficult right now. It may be challenging, but law school is only 3 years, and I think they were in their third year already. They were getting ready to graduate, and and I was telling them, I said, but all the challenging moments, all the obstacles that you run into now will help you appreciate the peace later on. When things have calmed down and you've gotten settled in life, in your marriage, you'll be able to look back and appreciate each other even more. The fact that the two of you could go through things together, go through difficult situations and not allow it to break you, because that's what marriage is about, being able to withstand and go through some things. And those difficult and more challenging moments really help us to appreciate, the calm and the peace and the stability, because sometimes in marriage, sometimes in life, we go through things, and it feels like in the moment that everything is crumbling down around us. It feels like nothing is going to work. Everything can look glim. It can look it can look really bad. And then we get through it, we get on the other side of it, and we look back and we think, wow, like I went through that. I got through that. It wasn't the end of the world after all. It felt like it in the moment, but it really wasn't the end of the world. And that's the way it is, with marriage. There are seasons, that we go through, just like in life, just like, we're in the winter season now. But some people don't like it when it's really, really cold. But again, it helps you appreciate when spring comes back around. You really, really, it gives you something to look forward to. So, if we lived a life where everything was always going exactly the way we wanted it to go, everything played out exactly the way we dreamed of it, just I think our human nature is that we become common with it, and we tend not to appreciate it as much. And so, I appreciate this cold weather that we're experiencing right now. I appreciate, the obstacles and things that we face in life, because it, number one, it shows us who we are, how we respond to things, and it gives us an opportunity to grow from whatever place we find ourselves in. And I think that's something important that we should always look to do. I don't care how well we do something. I don't care how much we can look back over our life and see how we've grown. And it doesn't matter how we might master a thing, how many accolades we get for doing something. I think we personally should always, always seek to just do a little bit better in whatever it is we're doing. Never get comfortable and complacent with I've done enough, or I got accolades and I've mastered this level, so that's good enough. And I don't think we should ever get comfortable in whatever we may be good at. I think we should always remember, kind of like I kind of mentioned this when we were talking about cooking. Thousands of years before we ever existed, people were cooking. So somebody has been doing it better than I could ever do it, which means I have a goal I have a standard to live up to. I'll put it that way. And that's the way we should always see it, that, somebody, whatever it is I'm good at, whatever it is I'm able to do well, there's somebody who has mastered it on a level that I can't even conceive in my mind. And so I always have a standard um, to live up to, which means, I don't ever get prideful in what I'm doing. I don't ever get complacent. I don't get satisfied and content with, I've given enough. Like I always have more to give. Always have room to grow, as far as I'm concerned. And I think, concerning marriage, I'll say again, as I said before, I think I am a good wife to my husband. I think I treat him very well. But I know the standard of God. I know that I have room to grow. So I don't give myself a pat on the back because um, I'm not where I was in year one of our marriage. I don't. I see room to grow, and that's really just the bottom line. And my prayer is that I will always see that, so that I will always be able to grow as a wife, to be able to grow with my husband, to grow with whatever his needs may be, and grow in the area of if just being able to have a heart and a mind to be pleasing as a wife. Because I think one of the mistakes that, and I think it's just human beings, period. We can make the mistake of just getting too common, and what another term that we use is really going on cruise control in life, and it can be in anything. Um, but when you go on cruise control, it's you've gotten in common with a person or a situation, and it diminishes the importance of it. It diminishes your need for it, because hey, you're here, you're gonna always be here, you're not going anywhere. We're just doing this, and it diminishes the amount of effort that you put towards it. I think it even takes away from your good attitude towards it, because if you become common with something and you just think it's going to always be there, then you don't see a need to work for it. You don't see a need to put forth a lot of effort in it to even have a good attitude. After all, you're just going to be here. And so that's what we don't want to do. That's what we don't want to do in marriage. We don't want to do that in our walk with the Lord, or just in relationships, period. We don't want to take people for granted. We say that we know that Christ could come back any day, but I think a lot of times we don't live like that. A lot of times when we greet each other, we expect to see each other again tomorrow or later today, or we expect to talk to each other. But what if you were not going to? And that's one of the things that I try my best to keep in mind, like when I'm dealing with my husband. And I think it's a good rule of thumb when you're dealing with people. If this was the last moment that I was going to spend with you, what impression do I want to leave with you? Let's just say I'm going to be the one leaving. The Lord's going to take me in the next 5 minutes. What do I want to leave you with? Do I want to leave you with an argument? Do I want to leave you wondering whether or not I really respect you or love you? Do I want to leave you wondering whether or not I really enjoyed the last moments with you? Do I want to leave you wondering, whether or not I truly wanted to be in this? And I think we should think about that. And again, not just in marriage, but just in dealing with people in general. We should really live like Christ could come back at any moment and treat people accordingly. What do I want to leave you with? You know, um, So, I think that's important. And the only way to do that is if we're not getting too common, if we're not going on cruise control, if we're not just taking people for granted, we're not taking life for granted because it's not ours. As the old people would say, we're on borrowed time. The Lord sent us here for His purpose. And we need to be pursuing that. And a lot of times when we talk about purpose, a lot of times people start to think big. What am I supposed to do that's supposed to impact the world? And I say, no, what are you supposed to do that's supposed to impact your home? Start there. What am I supposed to be doing in my home that's supposed to be impactful? Because it's what we do at home that really impacts the world. Because if I train up my children in the right way and they go out into society, then they will impact other people who will impact other people who will impact other people. And thereby you are impacting the world. And you don't need a stage to do that. We just have to know and understand our individual purposes and what I'm supposed to be doing, to have a positive impact, on people. And so let's take hold of that and really really I guess really see that for see it for what it is, that the next moment really isn't promised to us. And so let's make the most out of every moment. So I want you to think about something. If we were living like Christ could come back, before this bridesmaids series, this discussion is over today, it would impact how much you listen. It would impact how you think about how you can apply it, or what you could get out of it. It would probably make us examine ourselves a little bit more. Okay, what if I'm going to stand before the Lord? What is He saying to me right now that I need to know before I stand before Him? See, it impacts how we think about life and how we process life and how we move forward and how we do things. It has a greater impact. But if we think we have time, oh, I have time for this and I have time for that. If we think we're promised, 70, 80 years, and we think we have time to get it together, then, we're less likely to be diligent in examining ourselves and examining our responses to life and to people. So, that's funny. God is God is something. I didn't have any of that on my mind when I sat down and started talking. It just kind of went there, but I thank God for it. I thank God for us being here, and I appreciate, and I'm learning to appreciate more and more. I can't say that I've never complained about anything, because I have, but I regret that I complained about things. One thing I will say though is that when we're sincere about living life God's way, if we have complained about anything in the past and we missed a lesson, it's coming back around. The question is, how are we going to respond to it the next time around? It's coming back. And I thank God for that. I thank God for, another chance to go through something, to experience something again and get it right this time. But that's again, if we have a sincere desire to live life the way God intends for us to live it. We can think back on all the things that we've missed, and man, I wish I had not complained about this. I wish I had just gone through it. I wish I had learned whatever lesson, and He'll bring it back to us. It's almost like it's inevitable because that's the only way we're gonna grow. That's the only way we get to the next level. That's the only way we grow from glory to glory. We have to pass third grade to get to fourth grade. And so we should look for those things and pursue those things, and again, that's what examining ourselves is all about. What did I miss before that I don't want to miss in the future? Did I really have the right attitude about this? I cannot tell you how many times I have looked back over situations. I've heard something in a fellowship discussion or heard something in a sermon that made me reflect back on something in my past, and then I can see it completely differently than I did before. And I see how I had the wrong mindset. I see how I responded wrong. And you know what? It gave me the opportunity not just to see it differently, it gave me the opportunity to repent, because as long as I didn't see it the way God saw it, then it wasn't under the blood. That is something that we have to understand. I can't repent and turn away from a mindset that I don't understand I have. So that's why it's important for us to examine, what was I really like? What was this mindset that I had? And how contrary was that to the Word of God? Because we have to understand how wrong we are in order to even have a desire to make it right, to want to be right, and for the Lord to show us that. So I'm gonna just get get on into this. I think what I'm saying now is gonna kind of come back up a little bit later in this discussion. But I was listening to, excuse me, I was listening to the message from Tuesday from the prison ministry, and I started to write down some things that was personally for me, and in that, the Lord began to give me some things for the bridesmaid, and so that's what I'm going to share. Um, the first thing is one of the things that, of course, if you listen to it, this will sound familiar to you. You'll probably remember it, is that faith makes things materialize, and therefore, if I have faith in something, I am going to be expecting something to happen according to what I believe. Um, and so, one of the notes that I wrote down that was just to me, as a born again believer, excuse me, I have faith that I've been redeemed, that I'm going to spend an eternity with the Lord Jesus Christ, and therefore I expect the fruit of the Holy Spirit to manifest in my attitude and in my character. I think that was a really, really valid point, that if I believe in something, then I'm expecting it to manifest, and therefore, like, I'm preparing for it. That's what I'm preparing for. It's almost like if you have an argument with your spouse, and it really never got settled, even though you might not still be arguing. But then the next time that subject comes up, because you don't believe anything has changed, you don't believe it was resolved before, you're expecting an argument again. And therefore you're preparing for that in your mind and in your heart. You're preparing an argument already. And so what happens? An argument materializes. Why? Because this is what I believe and this is what I've been preparing for. And so by default, that's what happens again. Another argument. And I think many, especially, if you've been married for a year or two or more, you kind of have had this experience where you have this, what we call these sore spots, or these subjects that you kind of want to stay away from. You tiptoe around these. Oh, I don't know if I want to bring this up because I remember what happened the last time. But even in saying that, you're expecting another blow up. You're expecting a war to come out of it. And so it's one of those things, how we talk about all the time with faith and fear being the same. You're fearful of having an argument, but you actually believe that it's going to happen, and so it comes to pass. you know. And so with that, and again, I'm just sharing this as a personal note that's gonna kind of tie into to marriage. I was just reflecting on, if I believe that I'm redeemed and that I have the Holy Spirit, then I should expect to see certain things manifested. And if I don't see these things, then I should be alarmed. I should begin to question. When I examine myself, I should see these things. And I'm going to go through these. These are just the notes. The first one is love. For me, that's doing what's best for others at all times and without hypocrisy, without restriction, without walls, and without hesitation. That's something that I should expect to see in my life, and that's something that I should plan for in my life. Joy, the inner appreciation to God for being chosen by Him. That's something that I should expect to have. It, it's from a place of appreciation. The difference between, have you ever given a child something and you yourself are excited and you expect them to be excited, but their response is just kind of nonchalant, like, oh, almost as if they don't know what it is or they don't know the purpose of it, you know. But for me, and again, I'm just sharing this personally, and we'll, kind of tie this in. This is the fruit that I expect to see in my life. Um, Peace, the calm within produced by me trusting God, God's servants, God's plan, and God's process without having to understand it all. So if I don't have peace about how I'm moving forward, then again, kind of, I should be alerted. Who am I not trusting in this list? Do I feel like I have to understand it all so I don't have peace as a result because I need to investigate and figure out how it's all working out, how it's all going to come together? Then there's long suffering. My willingness to exercise my ability to suffer for a long time and believing that sin will cease in my life as a result. It's funny when I was writing that I said, my willingness, because sometimes we talk about our ability to do something, and when I was writing these down again from a personal standpoint of what, how I want to examine myself, examine my heart, examine my life and what I'm seeing. And when I was writing that down, I was thinking about, the difference between the ability to do something and your willingness to do it. Because everything that the Lord commanded us to do in His Word, we have the ability to do it, but sometimes we're just not willing to. And I thought, wow, I'm examining myself in this and thinking, how many times have I maybe blamed it on me not doing something on, if I'm able to do it or by the grace of God, but not realizing that maybe it wasn't getting done because I didn't have the willingness to do it. And that just kind of stood out to me. And so then there's gentleness, and I said for me it's caring enough about the people around me to gauge situations spiritually in order to approach people and situations with caution to keep from wounding them unnecessarily. Before, when I would look at gentleness, I just only thought about of it on the surface level for me, and that was just kind of just how you handle something with care. But I was thinking more of like the physical touch of things. But when I was listening to it, and kind of looking at that, it goes a little bit deeper than that. Um, what about before you even deal with people? Are you willing to be spiritually minded to move with caution so that people aren't getting wounded unnecessarily? The gentleness of spirit, not just in handling things, not just not slamming doors or not setting things down hard or not grabbing it aggressively, but I mean like the gentleness of spirit and the goodness, maintaining a positive outlook regardless of life situations, which produces a good attitude at all times. And then my faith is me being firmly persuaded in God, God's servants, God's plan, and God's process without having to understand it, and not being moved away from what I believe in, no matter what my natural eyes might see playing out. Again, these are the things that if I believe that I'm redeemed, I'm supposed to be looking for this and preparing my heart for these things. This is what I'm expecting this to play out. And the last two is meekness and temperance. So with meekness is my willingness to be teachable, coachable, steerable, agreeable, and cooperative. It's not that I'm incapable of doing it, but am I willing to? And then the temperance is willfully living a life of discipline, not only for my sake, but for the sake of others. And that's maintaining structure and order. Those things are so, so important. And as I was going through that, I was just thinking about the fruit. And this is, I guess, going to be twofold. Um, that's the fruit of the Holy Spirit that I expect to see in my life. And that as I'm going through the list, I'm thinking, you know, these things greatly impact marriage. Greatly, greatly impact marriage, from my ability to do what's best for others, my ability to not withhold love, my ability to have an appreciative attitude, my ability to think about what I'm doing and how it's going to impact somebody, with handling situations without hurting people as much as possible. My ability to just be willing to suffer long, whatever I feel like suffering is, that I'm not complaining about it, that I'm just saying, okay, Lord, I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to suffer whatever, whatever, because each of us call different things suffering. So whatever it is I consider suffering, that I am willing to do it. And of course, when we're talking about marriage, um, the gentleness, goodness, faith, all of that, not being moved away from what you believe. If kind of like the story I told the ladies, like, oh, Sister Bolden, the Lord blessed me with a husband, and he's the best thing since sliced bread, and oh, it's so wonderful, it's so wonderful, so wonderful. And 3 months later, I don't know if I made the right decision. And so we have to have faith and not be so easily moved just because something didn't go our way. And then this goes back to what I was talking about, seasons. We're going to go through these periods where things are challenging. And we can't be so quick to just throw our hands up and give, oh, well, and start questioning God and lose faith in everything. And, this feels like suffering and I'm not willing to go through it. And, even the discipline to just be still. A lot of times we're not willing to do that. And so, again, these things greatly impact marriage, because it's going to impact, number one, how long you are able to stay married, what you contribute to marriage, and the fruit that you see show up in marriage. Greatly impacts. So, then the question, it's a rhetorical question, but, for each of us to kind of answer, what fruit do you see showing up in your marriage? Because whatever you see, it's indicative of what you believe and what you have been preparing for. Kind of like the example I gave a moment ago about an argument that's unresolved. That issue that we're tiptoeing around, that, oh, I don't know if I want to bring that up again. You're preparing for a fight. You're preparing for a war when you're doing that. You don't even expect peace. You don't expect it to be resolved. You don't expect an answer. You don't expect growth. The only thing you're expecting is a fight. You're just expecting the same war that happened the last 3 times. And that's not even operating in faith. At some point, we have to look at and really, really stop and examine, you know, what fruit am I seeing and what am I contributing to this that's bringing about this fruit in my life, whether you're married or unmarried. Because again, what you see showing up in your life now before you get married, if you don't deal with it, if you don't address it, if you don't have the ability to even see it, the same thing is going to play out in marriage. So, what am I seeing that's indicative of what I believe? What is this fruit that I'm seeing showing up, and how much of it am I contributing to? And I think that's really, really important. And I'm gonna share. Um, I'm gonna share think I'm gonna just kind of deal with three areas because I'm sure I could, if I sit down long enough, I could come up with a really long list. But I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of the fruit that I saw in my first marriage, and one of the deceptions that I think happens with women. Because if we don't understand anything else about ourselves, we need to understand that our emotions um, greatly deceive us a lot of times in a lot of situations, and we have the ability to give ourselves a pass when we shouldn't. With things that we do, we easily write off our own actions, and of course, I think in that, what I found more often than not is that we also critique others more sternly than we're willing to critique ourselves, when it should be the other way around. So one of the things, one of the fruit that I saw in my first marriage was my contention. Now I'm gonna try to paint a picture. So when I first got married, of course I'm young, you know. Think I was 19 years old when we got when I moved out. So I think I was actually 20 years old. I was actually 20 years old. So, of course, at 20 years old, I haven't really experienced a whole lot of life. So I still had the ability, a, a lot of innocence was still there in a sense. I'll say it that way. I had a sense of the man is supposed to be the head. The woman is supposed to follow. So I wasn't like completely oblivious to the concept. I just didn't know it from a godly perspective. In that, so we get married. I have this idea of how to support, and all these just a lot of things that will help a marriage. But I also talked about my person and how, as I took on this. I don't know. I really don't. I don't know if I know exactly how to describe it appropriately, but this thing where there has to be justice. I'm gonna stand up for what's right, and I'm gonna be heard, and I'm gonna speak out. That kind of thing. And it's contention, really. The ability to strive and argue, the ability to um, just really hold on so strongly to what I believe without just considering, some other perspective. So with that, what the world calls a real strong personality, that's the way the world says it. You have a real strong personality. Well, that was in me. It didn't matter how much I thought I knew I was supposed to submit and all of that. So this is kind of what was playing out in the marriage. By nature, I was, for the most part, kind of quiet, laid back. But if I saw what I thought was an injustice, I was going to speak up. So there was not a lot of arguing all the time. And I want y'all to really, really pay attention to this. This was not, I have to have my way all the time. I think for the most part, I've always been a pretty agreeable person. I've gone through life pretty much being able to get along with anybody in most situations, even when I didn't necessarily like the person. If we were on a team and we needed to accomplish a goal, I can do that without my own personal feelings getting in the way. And so from day to day, for the most part, I came across as agreeable. But we had some really, really bad arguments at times. And it may have happened, I'll just say maybe two, maybe three times a year. I mean like really, really, really bad arguments. And I can distinctly remember one of the things that he used to say to me is like, When you get upset, you get it. Nobody can tell you anything. You don't listen. Nobody can get through to you. You know, you got your mind made up. He would say that, and I would calm down at some point and okay, all right, yeah, you're right, such and such, whatever. So here's the thing though. That fruit was present in me it was present in the marriage all the time. There were not daily arguments, there were not weekly arguments, but one thing he knew without a shadow of a doubt was that I had the ability to go there. And so it was always present. And one of the mistakes that we make as women is, again, we give ourselves a pass. See, I thought, well, as long as I'm not arguing back and forth with you on a daily basis, we're okay. This isn't even coming up every week. I mean, and then this is something that you'll see in marriage. You'll start to grow to where, okay, the arguments, you don't even get upset about things as much. You're not offended at things as much. This is not getting on your nerves. So you think, oh, I used to be like this in year 1, and now we're in year 4, and things are so much better. We're in year 6, things are so much better. Because after all, I've changed. And we make the mistake of looking at outward circumstances and trying to apply a change or something to our heart based on what we've trained our flesh to do. That's a mistake. So again, he knew I had the ability to, if it was an injustice, I had the ability to rise up and be heard. This must be fixed. This is wrong. But I wasn't even considering what he was saying whenever you get blinded by your own emotions and you can't see anything and nobody can tell you anything. There is another perspective that you're missing, but you're too blinded by your own anger to see it. And so what do you do with somebody like that? You think you're going to keep arguing with that person when you know you can't get through to them? Are you going to just keep hammering it home? Listen to me, listen to me. I have the answer. I have the answer. No. When you try to, and I think all of us have had this experience at some point. You're trying to get through to somebody and you feel like, okay, you know what? There's no getting through to you. You back up. You throw your hands up. It's like, you know what? Never mind. Maybe one day you'll get it in life. See, this is what's playing out in marriage, wives. When you have argued one time or 2 times or 3 times, it don't have to be 10, 15, 20, 30. It don't have to be every day, every week, every month. If you've done that, your husband knows that you have the ability to rise up and come against his authority. He understands that you have the ability to do that. So that's right there. It's in the marriage. It's there, and it's created a wedge there. It puts a distance between husband and wife. It creates an unseen friction. It's that subconscious friction that's there all the time. The next one is the controlling. Have to be in control. Now let me tell you what it looked like, because again, a lot of us know people, or maybe it was us at any point in time where I need to control everything from day to day out. I need to be a part of the money. I want to know what's going on with the bills. I want to be a part of all the decision making. I want to be in control of how the children are disciplined. I want to be in control of what we eat. Now there are some wives who really are like that um, extreme. Basically, they're trying to be the man. Well, that's not what it looked like when I was married before, because I think if you all remember, and I'll just kind of give these few details. I was working, but I wasn't in control of the money. I didn't know anything about when bills got paid or how they got paid. Um, I didn't make those types of day-to-day decisions like that for our family. I was not I was following. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. Okay, this is what we're doing. However that went. So you might look and think, oh, okay, well, you're following. You're not trying to control. But do you remember what I said? One of the things I was trying to control, I was going to make sure we obtain the American dream. I had magazines that laid out, this is kind of house we're going to build, this is the type of neighborhood we're going to live in. That's the part that I kept bringing to him over and over again. We need to be saving this amount of money so that we can obtain this. Let's put this on the side. Look at this house. Just bringing all that all the time. Maybe in 5 years we could have this much saved and we can plan to do this and we can plan to do that. Those are the things that I would bring. Oh, I saw this. And it was never in a bossy, pushy kind of way. It was always, oh, I had this great idea from looking in these magazines. This is what's new. And this is the thing. Always just bringing, these are just some good ideas I had. Of course, he would let me talk, but he would not engage in the conversation. He would not carry on in the conversation about it. And there was never any real answer to, yes, we're going to do that. Yes, it's like, okay. And that would just be that. But I was trying to control what our future looked like. And so again, this wasn't a conversation that came up weekly or monthly. I would probably bring that to him maybe, I'll just say 3 or 4 times a year. In my mind, we need to be moving forward. Okay, we've accomplished this. By this age, we should have this accomplished. By this, that was all my thinking and planning because I wanted to keep up with the Joneses, as they say. I want to obtain the American dream to say we've done something. And he was really a simple person and really wasn't. It's like, I think in his mind, yeah, I may want XYZ, but it'll happen in the time that it's supposed to happen. I'm not competing with anybody. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. So we are where we are now, and let's be here and do what we have to do. And when it's time to move into that, then we will. I think that was the attitude behind it, but I was missing it. I was missing all the times I said those things to him, and he just didn't engage in conversation. In my mind, I'm controlling. Okay, I'm letting you know that this is what's going to happen in our future. Um, and I really want to stress, and I cannot stress this enough. These are not things. This was not a nagging, a daily, weekly, monthly nagging. But why didn't I get the hint when I was bringing these things to him and it never materialized into a conversation where he was, yeah, let's do this. That never happened. It was just okay. Apparently, and I'm only imagining from his perspective. Apparently, you've gotten all worked up from looking in these magazines. So let me let you get this out, and I'll just listen to you. But I have no intention on moving forward with your plans. So he saw the contention, my ability to just raise up and argue about something and not be heard, not my mind can't be changed, and then my ability to want to control our family and our future by making plans without him. And then the other thing that I want to share in that is the offense that leads to a lack of vulnerability. And you would think, oh, okay, well, you're not arguing all the time, and you're submitted by it. It looks like you're submitted by allowing him to really just kind of take care of the day-to-day operations of the family without giving, any flack about it or anything like that, not questioning, how the money is being spent or things like that. But then there's the offense, because we talked about the infidelity, and for a very long time, I gave myself a pat on the back. Unfortunately, I gave myself a pat on the back for staying. I gave myself a pat on the back for continuing to be a wife to him during that time. And I think now I would sit here and I would retract that and say that, you know, I physically trained myself to do the things that a wife was supposed to do. But in looking back over it, I was offended at the infidelity. And I could see that play out through the lack of vulnerability, because we started out in a place where I was completely vulnerable. There was nothing he could have talked me into doing anything. And as I looked back over how the marriage progressed, how I began to withdraw. Emotionally, I withdrew, and I never withheld. I wasn't withholding intimacy, but I wasn't all in with intimacy. And and I say I wasn't withholding, but I guess in a sense I was, because I can remember, I found, I was just cleaning up, and I was dusting, and I found a pornography tape. And I can remember, I was so shocked to see that, like what in the world? Why is this even in here or whatever? And I remember asking him about it, and he was, oh, that's for somebody else. And suddenly, well, you should get this out of here. We're Christians. This shouldn't be in our. I wouldn't want anybody to come here and see this. And of course, it didn't even dawn on me that that was just something that he was watching. And then I think I found it again another year, another one or something like that. I don't know, it might have been the same one, for all I know, I'm not sure. And I look back over that whole situation, and I know that in the beginning of our relationship and marriage, if he had told me to watch that with him, I would have. Without hesitation, I wouldn't have thought a thing about it. I would have watched it. Whatever you want to do, we'll do it. But by that time in the marriage, after the infidelity, I had gotten offended. And so now, just get this as far away from here as possible, under the guise of holiness, but that really wasn't what it was. I had too much other stuff going on that was contrary to the word for that to be about holiness. It was offense. And so now you couldn't move me into that. So then, and I'm just kind of fast forward just for this purpose. When he had left, I don't know if you all remember me sharing this in a fellowship, for sure, in a fellowship discussion. I called him up on the phone. I was cleaning up, and I had ran across another tape. This is where this distance. He had not moved out, but there was this distance, and I knew things were like really at the end. Things were going. It was going bad really quickly, and so I'm cleaning up, and I called him on the phone because I ran across the pornography tape, and so I put the tape on, and I'm playing it so he can hear it, and I'm like, why don't you come home? So I go from, I don't want to have anything to do with that, but now when I see you're trying to leave, I'm going to use this that I know I've always known, because I found these tapes 2 or 3 times by this time. So I know that this is purposely in here for you. But I wasn't interested until now I see you're leaving. So now I'm going to try to hurry up and do something. So again, offense that led to a lack of vulnerability. Because if you're vulnerable, then you're vulnerable. You're not withholding. And so then, where does that leave him to think, okay, so wait a minute, all this time you've been speaking against this, but now all of a sudden you're okay with it because you see that I'm doing something different. And of course, anytime we do something like that with a man where we withhold and then we go all in, it has the ability to make that man bitter. Like, so wait a minute, you've been withholding this from me all this time. You had the ability to please me in this manner, but you've been withholding it. So again, that's always been playing out in the marriage. This is always present in the marriage. This distance that's been caused there with intimacy, this distance that's been caused there because you want to control things and not just let the man be in his place, and the contention, the ability to argue and things like that. So it's causing an issue, and I want to just use this kind of as a little bit of a demonstration, because if something is present and causing a hindrance, again, a lot of times we think because it's not happening all the time, then it's not present, that it's not affecting anything, but it is. It really is. And I'm just going to show you the difference between this. I want to close this computer, and I'll just say this represents having a good marriage. I want to close the gap. Everything that's been a hindrance or whatever, like I really want to close that. Well, this, obviously, I can't close it when I put this here. This is the arguing every day or every week or constantly from month to month. This is the withdrawing emotionally that's very evident. This is the bossiness and trying to control, the nagging, all these things, the brattiness, trying to get my way. This is what's evident, when it's happening continuously. This is the lack of vulnerability. I'm not going to talk to you as much as I should. I'm not going to share my thoughts. I'm not going to be open to your intimate needs. I'm not going to be open to ministering to you. I'm not going to put your needs first. This is the lack of vulnerability that's showing up just when it comes to cooking food, when it comes to taking care of children, when it comes to keeping the house in order. This is more obvious. But a lot of times, just like I said, we master training our flesh, and we train our flesh to not be so obvious. And this is what it looks like when you train your flesh. See, it looks like this computer is closed completely, but as long as this thin piece of paper is there, there's still something there. And that is representative of the contention, the offense, the controlling nature that only shows up once or twice a year. But it's still blocking something. It's still causing a distance. This isn't clicking close like it was manufactured to do, because there's something still there in the way. And we get deceived with this. We think because it's not happening all the time that it's not driving a wedge between us and our husbands. We think that it's not causing an issue. We think because we've trained our flesh to look like we're not controlling, to look like we're not contentious, and to look like we're not offended, we think that there's nothing there, but it is. And it's going to cause issues, and it is causing issues if it's not dealt with. And so what did that look like for me to have this? See, this is what I had. This is what I had. It wasn't so obvious. Wasn't this right here? Still something there. But I, like many of us, I was giving myself a pass and a pat on the back because I moved from this being the obstruction to this being the obstruction. But the goal is that there are no obstructions at all. So what happened was, one day I'm at work and I get a phone call, and the phone call is, "It's over between us. I am leaving. I'm moving out. This marriage is over. I'm done." I'm not saying the words verbatim, but that's what it all meant. I'm finished with this. I don't want any conversation about it. I have nothing to say about it to you. My mind is made up. I'm finished. There is no fixing this. So, of course, for me, this is all I've been looking at the whole time. And I'm giving myself a pass. This is what he's been experiencing the whole time because it's always there. It's not going anywhere. And so then I get this, what I could only describe as a devastating phone call, which is like, what husband is going to call his wife at work of all places and say, you know what, it's over. Don't come home and try to talk to me. Well, no, I couldn't even go because we only had one vehicle at the time. I could not move. I could not. It was, this is over. This is the end of it. Nothing. Nothing is going to move forward in this marriage. This is just ending at this point. And so I was shocked. It was so shocking to me. Like, how did we get here? And I think a lot of women, a lot of wives will be shocked in that same manner. Why? Because of a lack of examination. Really examining, what am I contributing to this marriage? What am I really contributing? Because we give ourselves a pass for something that God doesn't give us a pass for. And our husbands aren't giving us a pass for it either. We think because maybe he's not talking about divorce. I do not ever remember in that marriage, I do not ever remember him ever, ever talking to me about divorce or us leaving. It was always, we're going to be together forever. That's what we talked about. Never, ever had an argument that I can remember where he ever said, I don't want to be with you. Once we got married, that was it. Nope, there was one time in the very beginning. There was one time, I do remember. He didn't say he didn't want to be with me. He just said he married me because a cousin of his encouraged him to do it. That's what he said. But from that point on, I don't remember ever anything like, I'm sorry I married you, I don't want to be with you, this might end in divorce. Never any of that. As far as I was concerned, we were just living life and we were just going to live out life together. But that was not his experience. That's not what he was experiencing. And therefore, I got that phone call, and I think a lot of women will be surprised at that same type of response. Why? Because we think we're okay because, hey, I don't yell at you and cuss you out like I used to. I talk to you in a calm manner now. I don't get emotional and go run off and go to the club or whatever like I used to. I actually stay home and just go in the room or whatever. I just shut down emotionally. I just get quiet. I don't talk a lot. But it's all the same is the point that I'm making. If there's an obstruction, there's an obstruction. And that's really the bottom line. And so that's what we have to be able to examine ourselves. And that's what I had to do. I had to examine, like what I contributed to that marriage. What did I contribute to that divorce coming about? What did I contribute? Because for too long, I just only put it on the infidelity. People have their issues, whatever they may be, and they do things, maybe inappropriately, but that wasn't the only issue that was there. I contributed to that. And what I did was, I came to the conclusion that I pushed my husband into the arms of another woman. I did that because of what I was contributing to the marriage. Because I would not examine myself appropriately. I thought, and I don't know if I ever thought it on the forefront of my mind as much as it was sown in my heart, because I have put up with your infidelity, then you should put up with anything from me. Because to me, that was the worst. What is an argument? What is that compared to? But that wasn't my place to do that. That wasn't my place to create a comparison chart to say that what you did was far worse than what I'm doing. And so it set me up because it was a self-righteous attitude that said, I'm putting up with you. After all, you've committed this outrageous act against our marriage, and I'm just putting up with you. It was self-righteous. I thought, and again, these are not thoughts that I had, but when I look back, again, this is why it's important to look back and examine your life and examine situations. When I look back over it, I was holding that over his head. I was quietly making him pay for it. And then I'm going to make you think I'm doing you a favor by staying with you, because after all, you deserve for me to leave you. If I left you, it would be well deserved. Because, I don't know, I gave myself a pat on the back again for being a good wife to him. I never stopped. I didn't miss a beat with being what looked like a good wife. And I gave myself a pat on the back for that. And I had him, I was holding a debt over his head like he owed me something. You owe me to stay in this marriage and fulfill my dream of never getting a divorce and never breaking up the family. And you owe me to achieve this American dream, buying the house on the hill with a white picket fence. You owe this to me. After all, I've been putting up with your infidelity. That was my self-righteous attitude that I had in the marriage. That's what was playing out. That's why I could be contentious, and that's why I could be controlling, and that's why I could be offended and hold back my vulnerability. Because after all, you've already done the worst thing that could be done, and you owe me. That's what was playing out in their marriage. And he got to a point where he realized, you know what? I don't owe you anything. And you are not the best I can get. There's somebody out there who will appreciate me and love me for who I am, and will be willing to follow me. And I don't have to put up with you anymore. And as a result, that phone call came. Enough is enough. I don't have to deal with you for the rest of my life. I don't owe you anything. And I think a lot of women have fallen for that trap and have been deceived into thinking that they're God and that they've forgiven the unpardonable sin and that man owes them, and he does not. I think it's a deep deception. We've reversed the roles. We've put ourselves in a place that we shouldn't be in. We've given ourselves more credit than we ought to, and it goes right back to what I said. I think that I am good to my husband, but I know without a shadow of a doubt that I have a lot of room to grow. I have much to do to improve in being a good wife to him. If I did not go back and look at what I contributed in the first marriage, and I'm not even down to the divorce, just how I was, period. If I keep giving myself a pass and saying that I'm good and I don't have room to grow, then I'll be on the same path. And that's with anything. You have it in your relationship with the Lord. If you think your obedience from last year is supposed to sustain you and God should just be satisfied that you obeyed him last year, then you're on the verge of wrecking that relationship. If you think, oh, you know what, I went all out of my way and I did all these great things for my husband the first 3 years of our marriage, he should just be satisfied, you're on the verge of wrecking that marriage. And if you treat people like that, I spent the last of my electric bill money to help you, so you're indebted to me for life. If I don't do anything else for you, you owe me. You're wrecking relationships with that. And so it's important, it is very, very important for us to see what we contribute, what mindsets are we bringing into marriage, and look at the fruit that it's yielding. If there's something unresolved, if you feel this distance between you and your husband, you um, plainly see this lack of vulnerability, do something about it. But the first thing is you have to be able to say, you know what, I've contributed this. I've done this. This fruit that I see, I played a part in the fruit that I see showing up. It's my attitude. It's my actions. It's my offense. It's my contention. It's my controlling behavior. It's my self-righteous attitude. I've played a part in this with the mindset that I have. And the question is, how long do you think your marriage will be able to withstand the bad fruit that you see as a result of the bad seed that's been planted? How long will it be able to withstand that? I'm gonna share too, and this is just about the mindsets that we have. It's two mindsets, and I'm gonna quote some lyrics from two different songs, from two different female artists that's from two different eras. And they have a song, I think the song is called My Guy by Mary Wells, and the some of the lyrics say, nothing you can say can tear me away from my guy. Excuse me. Nothing you can do, 'cause I'm stuck like glue to my guy. Then Beyonce, I believe the song is called Irreplaceable. The lyrics, some of the lyrics are, you must not know about me. You must not know about me. I can have another you in a minute. Matter of fact, he'll be here in a minute. That's two completely different mindsets. Two completely different mindsets that yields different results. We live in an age now where younger people have learned to take on this mindset to look down on the women of previous generations, their grandmothers and great grandmothers and great great grandmothers. They say they were uneducated and stupid for staying with their husbands, who these younger people deem the husband wasn't treating them right, and by treating them right, meaning they were not worshiping them. They were not making gods out of their wives. They were being men who knew what it was to be a man, who knew what it was to be in their place. They understood the the position of a man and a woman, and how the house was supposed to be managed and what that was supposed to look like. And so this younger generation, this current generation is saying, oh, they were stupid. I never would have stayed. I wouldn't have put up with that. What they're saying is, I can have another you in a minute. Matter of fact, he'll be here in a minute. But do you know what they were also saying with that? See, the Mary Wells said, there's nothing you're gonna do to tear me away from my guy. I'm stuck to him like glue. I'm not going anywhere. I don't care what happens. We're gonna be together. I don't care what you say. I don't care what he does. We're gonna be together. That's the generation of people who are married for 40, 50, 60, 70 years. That's the generation of people who are maturing through life and learning lessons that they can pass on, meaningful things to the next generation to help stabilize the family, help stabilize the marriage, help mature and produce better people, longevity, actual relationships, marriages, not I have you here now, and in a minute, before you even finish packing, I got another man driving up, because that is from one man to the next. From one, I don't even want to call it a relationship, just from one man to the next. Promiscuity, broken people, broken families, broken marriages, if it should get that far. Weak women who have nothing to pass on to the next generation, because they're not even maturing. Moving through life, getting older, but not maturing, not learning lessons in life, just only catering to flesh. Don't care about what they're doing and how it affects other people. This is just what I want. Oh, you didn't give me what I wanted, so let me go have sex with somebody else and use my body to get something that I want. Oh, you didn't give me. And that's the trick of it all. You might have 200 things on your list, on your wish list. And every man that you get with is only going to give you one thing off of it. So you're just going to keep going from man to man to man to fulfill your wish list? Because that's what's happening. That's how stupid that is. This is what people are doing and not even thinking about it. This is what happens when you cater to flesh and you just want everything to go exactly the way you want it to go. Okay, well, you're not giving it to me and you're not giving it all to me. So I'm going to put together my list. Doesn't matter that I'm just giving myself away. It doesn't matter how broken I am at the end of it all. Doesn't matter how weak, how I'm weakening the family unit by doing this. None of that matters. Just give me what I want. And for every woman who will say, well, I'm not doing that, you're not doing it with the man now, but if you're doing it with food, if you're doing it with shopping, if you're doing it with television, if you're catering to your flesh in that manner, then it's just a matter of time before it moves into you doing it with the man. It's the same thing, in other words. It's just about what opportunity is most available to you in the moment that you're catering to your flesh. The mindset is still the same. This saying, I don't know if it's still a thing now, but I'm going to do me. I remember hearing people say, I'm just going to do me. In other words, I'm going to just cater to my flesh. I'm going to do what I want to do. And I don't care who it affects. And I don't care how it affects anybody. I don't care if it affects future generations. None of that. I don't care about any of that. Just what makes my emotions happy in this moment. Except those moments continue. And then you're consumed with making a God out of yourself. And you're no good for marriage. You will never be a good wife as long as you're catering to your flesh. Never. I don't care what you train your flesh to do. You are not a good wife if you're catering to your flesh, period. Being a wife means having a heart of servitude. That means putting somebody else above yourself. That means thinking soberly and spiritually about what you're doing and how it affects other people in your home first. So, just in case, and I really think this is all I have to share, just in case you gave yourself a pass and you said, I did well by not leaving my husband because he mistreated me, and I did well for not leaving my husband because of the infidelity. I did well by not leaving my husband because of X, Y, Z. Whatever it is you feel so self-righteous about, you have not been a good wife if you are catering to your flesh. You're not. And so I encourage you to go back and re-examine the things that you've contributed to marriage, or the things that you've contributed to life if you're not married, to different relationships that you're in, to the person that you're supposed to be, the man that you're supposed to be submitted to. Look at what you've contributed. Stop patting yourself on the back and thinking that you've done something great. Stop giving yourself accolades for what you obeyed in 2 months ago or a year ago. I encourage you to examine yourself. I hope you could see the difference in what I was saying, that what I described when I was first married. From an outward appearance, it would appear that I was a good wife. But if I were a good wife, I would not have gotten that phone call. I was contributing something more than what I was seeing, what I was willing to see, what I was truly willing to examine. There was more there. I was not considering his experience. Why? Because I was being self-righteous. And I felt like you deserve whatever I give you, you just accept it. And I deserve to have your full commitment in this because you owe me. That's a wrong attitude. Whether it's in marriage, whether it's with God, whether it's just with people that we're friends with on a, just on a daily basis in our daily interactions with people, that's a wrong mindset to have. Nobody owes us anything. The only thing we deserve is death. And we should appreciate the fact that Christ died on the cross to at least give us the opportunity not to be separated from him. And everything else in life is lanyard. Everything else outside of it, we don't deserve anything. I don't think I deserve the goodness of my husband or his love, and I appreciate it. But I don't think I deserve it. I don't think I've done anything to deserve it. I appreciate the Lord bringing us together, and I appreciate the life that we've lived together. I appreciate the blessing of it. But I don't think I deserve it. I don't think I deserve anything. And we have to learn to live like we really appreciate the things that we have, not take it for granted, not become so common with it, and not think we deserve. Because oftentimes, if I think I deserve A, then I'm going to move down the alphabet and I deserve it all. In other words, it does not stop. It doesn't end. Once we feel self-entitled to one thing, we can open up that door to everything. And so my strong suggestion is to just not open that door. Be humble, stay humble. And just appreciate whatever God has allotted to us in life. Let's just appreciate that. And allow him to add whatever he wants to add. And again, if he doesn't add anything else, could we be content with that? Would we be content from this point on not getting anything else that maybe we mistakenly dreamed of? Not getting anything and just being content with spending an eternity with the Lord. The rest of my life on this earth is just serving others. I get nothing out of it. Could I be content with that? And if we're not, then we need to get there. And we need to get there quickly. That's where we need to live, in that place. Lord, I'm here for your purpose. I'm here to do your will. I'm here to do your work. I'm here to serve you by serving others. That's where we're going to end it with. Let's live life outside of ourselves. Because truly, our purpose and our presence in this earth is not meant for us to cater to our flesh. It's meant for somebody else to benefit from it. And that's where we should live. That should be our heart's desire, to truly serve other people. And knowing that in doing that, we're serving God, that my service truly does extend beyond my home and beyond just my little comfort zone of people that I love so much and people that I feel so close to. But if somebody else can benefit from it, and I always encourage us to do that. And let's just bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you and we praise you and we glorify your name, God, because you are worthy. We thank you, Lord God, for allowing us to make it here safely and for allowing us to have this discussion and hear the things that we've heard. And as always, God, I pray and ask that you will help us, Lord God, to hold on to these things, that we will not allow the cares of this world to uproot it from our spirits. I pray, Heavenly Father, that you will help us to truly examine ourselves, examine our past interactions, so that we can see things the way you see them, Lord. We thank you and we praise you in advance for the answers that you will give. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. Okay. Um, I'll just open it up really quickly. Does anyone have anything they want to share at all? Okay. We have a comment.
This really helped me to see that. So I was married like 20 years ago, and the way I thought about me as a wife was, we never argued, except that one time where we almost got divorced over one argument. So it was always in me all the time. So that's really important for me to see that. And just all the ways that I was not a good wife, and I expected him to be a good husband, but I was not a good wife. So I was really blessed to just really see how I really need to examine myself, how I was back then, so I don't ruin what the Lord has for me maybe in the future.
Thank you.
I was really grateful for the whole discussion, and I think it was this morning I was just thinking about how, like, I was thinking, like, man, I just seem like I have a lot going on and stuff, and wanting to catch up on things that that just need to be repaired and stuff like that. And I was thinking about that, and I was just like, Lord, I just pray that I can look back at these times that just seem like stuff isn't slowing down just yet, and wanting to get things in order. And I was just like, Lord, I really pray that I can look back at these times and learn and, just see what is coming from, wanting, just getting things in order, and just the challenges and stuff like that in life. And, I guess just thinking about it, I was in tears. And then when Sister Bolden started talking about it, I was just in tears about it, because I'm just like, I was just thinking about this, like, I'm just really, I guess just looking forward to that day where I can say, okay, like I, was able to withstand, and just even just really mainly like we talked about today, just from fruit that I had sown into our marriage and things like that. And I think now that I have that understanding that, okay, a lot of these issues that, I'm seeing are just things that just need to be put in order was because of me being out of order for that long, and just seeing how basically, even though you might, like for me, I guess I would say, even though I could see myself, okay, I've been, delivered and things like that. And okay, I don't have to so much deal with, I guess the evil spirits that may have been, there to influence me to do other things. Now I realize, okay, now that I'm on the other side, now I need to be examining myself more, like it was said in this message about just old mindsets that or just bad mindsets that I had, and making sure that I'm paying attention to my actions and that I'm not allowing that to be there, even though it, like you were saying, it's not playing out every day, but maybe seeing, okay, well, I see this is not where it needs to be, so why is it not that way? And going more, I guess, deeper into thinking about those things, and not being complacent and satisfied with, okay, well, I'm on the other side of things, so things should be getting better, but really examining myself and wanting to see, if there's any subtleties there. Another thing was just about just because the Lord is there, or my husband is there, or things might not be being addressed, being able to be sensitive to the fact that, okay, well, maybe I feel a little I guess I don't want to say like a little gap between us, or like I do believe, like, now I'm more sensitive to that, and now I realize, okay, when it comes down to that I need to be willing to say something. And I remember one time my husband was like, you don't have to wait on me, and I felt like he was saying that with everything, like, you don't have to wait on me to correct this. If you know that it needs to be corrected, don't wait to be told something. Or, just like it was said, just like basically, just you don't have to wait on me to bring up a conversation. If you see, something, then, just speak up about it. And to me, that's a reminder, to not get complacent with that, and be willing to speak up about things, and be vulnerable about it. But, I guess for me, I would say in the correct manner, not coming, in a manner of offense, or being controlling, because that was just a pattern that I created in our marriage. And now I see, so I need to, have a renewed mind about this. And, okay, so now doing things the correct way. And being willing to put in that work, that I wasn't before, because I can honestly say I wasn't. I had that attitude of self-entitlement, but now I'm just like, okay, he doesn't have to stay. And to me, it's just a reminder, just don't get complacent with, I've done this grand thing today, so that should sustain me for the next couple of weeks, and then just drop the ball, and then just everything is just chaotic again. That was a pattern for me as well. And I'm just like, okay, I'm over that. It's time to move forward from that. And I know that for me, you know, I want to have a good witness on my husband. You know, if we're both living for the Lord together, I don't want him to feel like, oh, she's waiting on me to get it right, or even the Lord just, oh, you're waiting for so and so to get it right so that you can do what you're supposed to do, and you know, not having that attitude anymore. So that's all I wanted to share.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to share anything?
Yes, ma'am. I was really, really grateful for everything that was shared, and also I just want to say thank you for the testimonies and the examples that you shared. Even the songs that you brought up with the lyrics, and I really just sat here like, oh my goodness. At first, I used to have this mindset and think that when songs would pop up in my head that I used to have an attachment to, that it was always the enemy. And this song by Mary J. Blige that I used to just, was my national anthem whenever I got hurt, was Not Gonna Cry. And I love that song. And I would blast it, do silly stuff like sing it in front of my husband and things like that, you know. And it was a particular part of that song. Of course, the lyrics, the chorus was Not Gonna Cry, you know, not gonna cry anymore and things like that. And I remember sharing in the past how I had that issue. For a while, I noticed I wasn't crying anymore. And I just thought it was because I actually said those words to him in the hospital when it was something that happened with us and this other woman. And I remember asking him, you know, are you going to stay with me or do you want to be with me or something? And he said no. And I remember just saying, I'm not crying over you anymore. But I wasn't thinking about that song at the time. I just said that. And it's something because that song is literally the opposite of everything that was said today. To help us, it was like the opposite. She was preaching, I gave you 11 years of my life. Besides the children, I have nothing to show. I was your secretary. Basically, she was bringing up all the good stuff she did. And I was thinking, sitting here thinking, that is something that all of this is coming up. The Lord was literally speaking against this song today. And I never thought to go back and repent for that. I never reversed those words because I just kind of just brushed it off. And if that song, when that song came in my mind, a few days, I don't know if it's a few days or weeks, how long it's been, but I was just like trying to get it out of my head. And I told my husband about it. I was like, this song is coming up, and I was getting nervous. I was thinking the enemy was trying to pull me back or something. I'm like, what is happening? And I'm like, why is it in my mind and, you know, and things like that. But now I know, you know, sitting here today, why that song came up. And it was just how the Lord tried to grab your attention about things. And I know to repent for that and to make sure I reverse those words, because she was saying some stuff against marriage, like really, really bad. And so I was just truly grateful for that. And, you know, it's just amazing to me, like how I shared before, it's always something that the Lord is pointing out. And I'm grateful for that as well. And I was really blessed by when you talked about how we have the ability to deceive ourselves. And I know we talked about that today, but I mean, and before, but today it was just in a different light, just hearing the examples, like when you talked about the emotions and how you gave the example, for example, like the argument, you can argue maybe, okay, well, I'm not arguing with you as much as I was, so you have the ability to deceive yourself and think things are getting better. But the whole time, if you argue with your husband one time out of a year, he still know that it's there, and you still have the ability to do this. And then, like he said, the argument was never, it was never addressed. You just kind of just blown over and things like that, and he knows this is you. You know, just because you're not arguing with me, I know, like, that's what he's thinking about the whole time, so it's always there. And just how you were saying how you were missing that, that's the thing that I noticed that I would miss all the time. I'm like, well, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing that. I've improved in this or whatever the case may be, but that's not what the husband is seeing. And even though it was the other example, the control, I was like, wow, I would have never examined that hard enough to see that, you know, like how you were saying, you were not controlling the finances. So you can really put yourself in this place where, okay, I'm being led and things like that, but not thinking about, okay, you're throwing your little ideas out here and there, and he's looking like, okay, you know, he's basically knowing that's still control. Like, okay, no woman's not going to control me, like how we've talked about before. And he's still seeing that as the same thing. But, you know, at the same time, I'm sitting there, I'm missing it. Not thinking that, okay, well, I'm doing all these things. I'm following you, every decision you make. But you still throwing ideas out there. And it was just, I don't know, when that was said, it was like, okay, so that's what he sees. And the whole time you're not even seeing that. May not even be your intentions and things like that. You're just having this mind, okay, I saw this and I liked it and I'm going to bring this up. But the whole time it's really controlled. And that's why, you like how you were saying, that's why it's really important to examine yourself. What are you contributing to the marriage? You know, how much of this are you causing? And one of the last things was about the offense, the lack of vulnerability. And when you were talking about the withdrawal of emotions and the intimacy, I know that was something that I saw in myself, you know, with the infidelity in our life, in our marriage. And, you know, I remember saying in my mind, you know, when we first got married, you know, I was like a few days shy away from turning 17. And I remember going into the marriage with a lack of trust. I wanted to be married, but I was like, I still, because all of those, a few things had happened. And of course, that's what I prepped myself for. So it was like, I remember what I was telling my husband not too long ago. When this ministry started, I was like, we kind of got married around that time. I wish we would have found this ministry then, because it was so much that I really saw that I messed up on. You know, like I was always doing stuff like just pushing them away, you know, and things like that. And I didn't see the detriment of what I was doing, just constantly nagging him, you know, where are you, blowing up his phone, just, you know, doing things like that. I guess I was bypassing my, you know, what I was doing and thinking, okay, well, like how you said, what you did was worse. So you need to put up with my crazy. And, you know, I was doing some really, really bad stuff. And I honestly, looking back at it, just like nobody, I don't care how many times a man may step out on you. What I did, I look at it now, I look at my actions as worse. You know, I was destroying stuff that was his, just because, okay, I was hurt and it was manifesting that I want to hurt you, but it was coming out in these aggressive ways and things like that. And I'm like, of course you didn't want to be around me. Of course you kept, and like how we talked about the comforting, I was way far from that. I didn't give him anything to come back to other than chaos and contention and things like that. And just hearing all of these things today, it was like, okay, there's a lot that I was extreme. So it was like, I need to really, really be examining myself now to make sure that I'm not giving myself this pat on the back because I came from that extreme place. Like, okay, well, I'm not, you know, throwing your game anymore because you know, did this. So I've came a long way, you know, if that makes sense, because I know I've had the ability to do that before. And so I was just really, really grateful. And I'm definitely going to be examining myself and being more sensitive to the situations that we have going on and noticing, okay, like how you were saying, is there a lack of distance? Because I've seen that before play out in our marriage. And it was times where I might say something, but it was other times where it was like I didn't. And just try to go on and like, okay, well, I'm just going to try to make sure I'm doing everything I can. But at the same time, there was no way, hearing this today, I was examining, like when you just brought out that about the, you know, like with the finances, the emotions, all of those things that you brought out, a lot of us as women, we can kind of think that, you know, that's not something that's compared to infidelity or whatever the case may be, but the husband is seeing it as that. Like no, you're not honoring me, you're not respecting me, and things like that. You need to make sure that you're in your place, that you're not using all of these little outlets to try to get something in there, try to get some type of control and all of these different things. So I was just really, really, really blessed by everything that was shared today, and I know that I'm definitely going to be examining and not thinking that I've arrived somewhere, and the whole time my husband's looking back like, no, this is still you. So I was just really grateful for that, and that's all I'm going to share for now.
Thank you. I'm gonna just comment real quick before if anybody else want to comment. What she was saying, she didn't give her husband anything to come back to but chaos and contention. And I'll just tell you, and I was talking about the fruit of the Holy Spirit. And I just wanted to share this, that men are gonna always, always, always look for um, the fruit of the Spirit in a woman. That's what they're attracted to. That personality, that demeanor, that type of spirit. And it doesn't matter if they're in the Lord or not. That's what they're going to be drawn to. So by default, if, like she said, if you are creating chaos and emotionalism and contention and brattiness and nagging, if that's what he has to come home to, he's gonna be searching for something else. Okay, this isn't peaceful. So he's gonna be searching for the fruit of the spirit. So when I talked about how that really plays into marriage and it affects marriage, it really does, because that's the type of wife a man really wants. That's what he desires. Does anyone else have anything they want to share? Say any questions or anything? Okay, we have another comment back there.
I wanted to ask, like, if it's like some things like you kind of have to catch up personally. Like, I would say, like, if a wife kind of fell back behind, like, on just other things that's outside of the marriage, but you like want to, like, I want to, I guess, catch up in those things, but at the same time, having that expectation, as a wife, fulfilling what I need to be fulfilling as a wife. I was going to ask, I guess, how to start going about doing that. So, like, if I have things that, okay, like, I know my husband expects me to do so and so, and I haven't not gotten to it yet, but I know I need to get to it. And then also stuff outside of our marriage that, I'm just like, okay, I need to get this in order at some point. I guess how to start going about doing that.
I think that goes back to the temperance, and a part of that, I said willfully living a life of discipline, not only for my sake, but for the sake of others. And it boils down to maintaining structure and order. And nothing will get in order if we don't just have some type of structure. The other part is the prioritizing, what's most important now and what can wait, and just get to it at some point. Sometimes it just takes planning things out, but you have to maintain structure, because, I can lay out a plan. Like, I have a to-do list, and I have, these things that I just, maybe they're considered urgent. They have to get done this week. And then I have all these other things that I want to do that will make things a little bit more organized, that will be better. And those are things that I can get to down the line. But if I can have a plan to execute these things, but if I don't have a structure that I'm maintaining, it's never going to get done. So what's most important? And then you have to maintain a structure to carry out a plan. That's really all it is to it. It goes right back to what we were talking about with the the bench, the wood that we had there. There was nothing holding it together, and that's what your structure is. So we can plan out a lot of things in life, and it can be great plans, but if we don't execute that plan within a structure, it's never going to get done. We have to maintain structure in our lives, and that's really just all to it. Goes right back to getting up at the same time every morning. If you know you want an extra 30 minutes to put towards, and I'm going to just say, like, maybe sewing every day, and you're getting up at 6:30 in the morning, you might need to get up at 6 o'clock so you can get an extra 30 minutes in that you dedicate specifically to sewing. But outside of structure, we can expect to have chaos, because that's all. That's it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Does anyone else have anything they want to share before we close up? Oh, yes. Have another comment.
actually wanted to bring up. I'm glad it came back to my mind when you were talking about. You said you shared this before at a fellowship, and I did not remember it. So I was really grateful you shared it again today. But it was about the part about the porno with your first husband, your ex-husband, and how you said that. You went from this mindset, like if you didn't know about it in the beginning, of course, but if he would have told you, you would have watched it, and then the offense setting in, and then how you changed, and it was, oh, this, holier than thou type of thing. But then at the end, when you noticing things going haywire, it was like, okay, I have this on, but how that can have I guess, like how I think I've heard Apostle Bolden say some things can backfire and things like that with, and I just kind of thought of another example he was using at the time with another sister and her husband. And it was like the husband having this mindset of, oh, okay, you having the ability to do this, and then they can become bitter and things like that. And it just made me really realize and see that I've saw in myself with that as well, where that offense set in, and it was, of course, me having this mindset, okay, well, I'm with you, I've forgiven you, and, and different things like that. But seeing certain things come up and I guess having this excuse, so to speak, of why I'm not putting my all into something, and then I saw that in myself as well, why I've had the ability to do it. But it basically what you were showing me is that that's what that was the whole time, was offense, not the excuses that I really was just coming up with, like, okay, well, this was the case or whatever, but knowing that when you first, like how you said, got with that man, you would have done anything. But then after the different things started happening in our marriage, I noticed that I was just really lacking in things like that. And like you said, you may not say no, but at the same time, it's like that husband knows, okay, something has changed and things like that. But just I would put it in this, this thing of, okay, well, I'm being intimate with you after you did this, and things like that. And I've also had the ability, because my mom, when my dad did these things with her, like, infidelity, she wouldn't be intimate with him. And her excuse was, because he would argue about it. It got to a point where he was frustrated, so he was just saying it in front of anybody. We would be home, so this is how we knew about it. And he called me and my husband out one day and said, I know their whole routine. He was like, Rachel, she'll go in there, she'll take a bath at this time, and then they go in the room. I know what's happening, this and this and that. And I was just I was like, what in the world? How? But then my husband, we talked about this recently, because we were talking about this, this intimacy thing, and he said, you know why your dad was like that? Because he was frustrated. That's why he noticed that. And I was like, okay, at first that threw me off. I was like, that's just weird, but that's how frustrated he was sexually. And of course, they're not together now, but her excuse was, I don't know, you sleeping with these women, I don't know what they have, and I'm not trying to get it. So in her mind, she was justified and not, but at the same time, it's like, why stay with him, and things like that. So it was just, that is a really, really big thing that happens in marriages after these, as far as giving like these excuses, women giving themselves a pass for something like that. And I noticed that I did that. And even though I might not have been as extreme as that case as my mom, I was still just not all the way in it the way I used to be, like all the way into him, letting him know and comforting him, just different things like that in that area. And I mean, literally trying to say stuff without being so personal, but just certain things that is the smallest thing they notice. And it's like, I in my mind, I was blowing it off. Like, okay, I used to do this, but I'm not doing that anymore. But as long as I'm laying down with you, then accept it, if that makes sense. So I was really grateful that that was brought up. And also thank you for being personal with us and sharing that testimony as well.
Yes, thank you. Did anyone else have anything they want to share? Give another comment in the back.
Yes, ma'am. Real quick, I just wanted to share how grateful I am for the detailed explanation of the subtlety of the actions that you that list that you went over with the offense, the control, and I forget what the first one was, but just the subtlety of the actions and the change in the mindset, like it not being necessarily outward per se, like not so upfront and noticeable and obvious to you as the wife, but how big it was to the husband. And that just blew my mind of like how you're saying like we can be so deceived into thinking, well, I'm quiet, I'm not arguing, I'm not yelling, I'm not
all doing this, but just being able to get the wisdom of that different perspective and know that not only does he see a difference, but it's a big deal to him, even though it looks little to us. It's a big enough deal that it could turn into a deal breaker if not fixed. So that was something that I wanted to share. Just I'm really grateful for that.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, well, I think that's all. I guess I'll just say thank you all again for the comments that you've shared. I'm always blessed to hear those things as well, and I pray that we will just all take heed to the things as the Lord bring things to our attention, that we will be determined to live those things out and not just not just hear it and let it go in one ear and out the other, but actually do something about it. So I guess that's all.